Chapter 8. In this case, should I use the term gorgeous grandma? It was a coincidence, but it was at the time when you were flying with a dragon through this snowy mountain from the very start? I remember that at the time, I was extremely cold. Essentially, it's impossible for a flesh and blood human to cross this mountain. It does not matter if it's by foot or by air. This is not a corporeal issue. The cold air that dominates the mountain is something that aims to freeze the soul. It's irrelevant how strong your body is, the heart will die before your body. I crossed it as well, though. Night-san, there just happens to be exceptional. Your elemental resistance magic has reached the level where it can work on spirit magic. The beauty pointed at Real. She can't feel it? It looks like she is not at ease with the existence of the beauty. She seems rather puzzled. However, for you, it was different. At most you, only with that feeble flame magic. You blocked it off to the level you only felt some slight cold, didn't you? Really, but I felt it was extremely cold, though. The point is that you only experienced normal cold. That's concrete proof of your peculiarity, but thanks to that, I was able to find you. The edge of her mouth lifted in a charming smile, which was worthy of being immortalized as art. Well, that was the motive. After that I made sure that the villagers would send you again to this mountain. On the route when you encountered the wolves I was slightly impatient. However, Night-san being so strong was quite helpful. It was even better that at the end they ended up guiding you to the entrance of this cave. That small girl totally is the beauty in front of my eyes. In other words, the request that the villager gave to Real was a fabrication. Ah, but please don't reproach them, okay? That people were only playing along with my selfishness, okay? Well, that's fine. Isn't? There are various unknown points, though. I know it's sudden, but is Oni-san human? Of course I'm not. If put into human words, I'm what's called spirit. Though, we don't have any specific word to define ourselves with. Spirit. I wonder if the spirit in the spirit magic she mentioned refers to herself. Hey Real. What are spirits supposed to be? While the word in itself brings something to mind, I don't know if that fits the definition of this world. Normally, it would refer to an existence that has no ego nor volition. Real, who finally calmed herself down, adds a concise reply. Rarely, there are spirits with a will. But assuming human shape, or having the ability to conceive such complex thoughts, I have never seen such a thing. That's how it is. It's not really something to be proud, but it took a very long time for me to develop my ego concretely. Maybe for about 1,000 years? A grandma. That's true, even if I look like this. I'm a superb obasan. Then this spirit deliberately gave an old person's oh type of laugh. It's nice that she has high spirits. Why did Ba-chan called us to such a cold place? Oi, a woman of high stature and greater age, I think you should address her in a more dignified way. Ara, isn't it nice? If you call me that, doesn't give an easy to talk feeling. At the foot of the mountain everyone calls me Sere-sama. I'm glad about being respected, but it's a little too stiff, you know? Even though I was addressing the biggest mystery so far, Real retorted my manner of speech, but the person herself seems pleased with how things stand. Well, in short, it's that I already got bored of staying in this place. The spirit put her eyes on the place where the spear is, and our eyes followed. The spear that once gave out a silver light is now broken in half. Half of its long handle is still standing on the ground. It's broken? It broke. Hold it, hold it. Don't talk as if someone else did it. It's obviously your fault. But, real, nope, nope, nope. Don't try to casually blame it on others, it had to be you. Even Spirit Dono is pointing at you. It's true that I touched it, but it was Bachan who made me do it. Or rather, it was at the level of a glimpse with my fingertips. But it's not like I'm throwing around blame. Instead, I'm grateful. It was this magical spear that had me confined to this place. Well, to say it properly is that I was sealed in this place and it haven't been touched for over 300 years. Completely neglected, always being the same. I don't care about that trivia. Not a single person dropped by this place regardless of how many decades piled up. Long time ago, humans that prided in their skills came to the mountain. Of course, their aim was the spear. The people of the mountain lended their help and those guys had quite the resilient souls. But not a single one could pull this spear. Everyone was just crushed by the appearance of the golem, or died from insanity at the moment they touched the spear. Oi! My expression changed by the casual remarks from the discouraged spirit. So, if it didn't go well, my final fate would have ended up being the same as those pride in their strength guys? But those guys' bodies, so to speak, are fundamentally different as they mainly relied on protection from magic spells and special tools to guard off the cold. It's a world of difference compared to you who just came here with just some thick clothes. Don't act as if it's okay just because you're adding more details. That's why I have always been here alone on this mountain, waiting. Eventually I learned how to split my body as to play at the foot of the mountain. But my true self has always been here, wetting my pillow night after night. What's with the pillows? Any split tear is likely to be frozen on the cheek. Let's keep that retort a secret. Spiridono, would you mind if I ask something? Naturally, Night-san, Oba-chan will answer all of your questions. To the spirit that hadn't lost a speck of that light feeling, Real inquired. You had already chosen Kanna. In other words, you had a concrete reason of why you judged him proper of pulling out that spear. I'm guessing that the criteria was the strength of the soul. But there it has to be something else, right? That's easy. Kanna-kun, is the one who has the purest colored soul in this world. Kanna-kun's soul has no impurity mixed in at all. To the point I have never seen anything else like this ever since I came to be. Purest colored soul. Would you guys mind stop speaking as if I was an ultra-immaculate boy? I'm still a young man going through puberty. The truth is, those plentiful white tights and that bottomless valley-like chest that sometimes leak through the spirit clothes make it really hard where to look. I might even succumb to the temptation of performing suicide bombing on those wonderful steep hills without noticing the inappropriacy of my youthful indiscretions. The conversation proceeds in a serious tone. I have no clue on what environment he was raised, but the moment I saw it, I was certain he would clear the challenge of the spear. The bottom line is that the current chain of events was planned from the start by the spirit. About the pure soul stuff, I really can't place any reason for it. I don't know if that was hard to understand. Well, Night-san will surely understand it eventually. As long as you stay next to him. After the spirit spoke something meaningful, she took a breath. But of course I didn't thought that it would break. You went beyond my expectations. But right now, wasn't it good that ended up broken? Isn't it fine? For 300 years, nobody made it to this room. Additionally, humans that came to the mountain for the spear haven't shown up in over 50 years. Probably, it's already forgotten. Aren't you being too careless? There is no point in fussing about the small details already. Since it broke, even if we want to, we can't do anything about it. That sounds about right. I can't really say if I'm totally not feeling guilty about this. I took a look at Real. She shrugged her shoulders and shook her head. Ah, this guy. She is already not thinking about it. Might as well stop thinking about it too. Okay, let's drop the issue. I'll be reminded about this later, though this exceedingly casual non-serious spirit 300 years ago struck terror all across the country as a feared existence once called Demon God of the Ice Fang. The spear that had her sealed and eye broke was a legendary magic weapon that the hero of that time used. Again, that's for later, though. I might have here taken the first small step that walks away from a regular person. This is also for later. It's important, so I mentioned it twice. That's why. At this time I still have the awareness that I'm a regular person. This is why I want to save this short interval of time as an important memory, going by the spirit's words. She should be able to interfere to some extent with the weather of this mountain. When we returned to the entrance of the cave, the mountain of rubble that was blocking it simply collapsed. The snowstorm that happened when we came here, and even the avalanche. She had created them intentionally. The first one was to corroborate that I was qualified, and the second was to lead us too deep into the cave. The next morning when we came to the village, all villagers went on their knees and lowered their heads. Real and I were in a fluster. We are not used to people lowering themselves like that. When someone from the village told us this story, it looks like he is the chief. The fact that the spirit was there was an indisputable truth, and her split body came to this village to iron out the details of her plan. While they did as the spirit said, they experienced guilt, because they might have driven to death travelers that know not about the mountain. For the time being, it is obvious that Real and I returned safe and sound, and we hold no blame towards them. Once that was told, at the very least, they promised to accommodate us cheaply in the village. They actually offered to do so freely, but as expected that would be a little bit too much. By the evening of that day, yeah, warm water sure is nice. It's been over 300 years since I entered a bath. Soaking in the post-bath bliss, a spirit whose soft hair was emitting dampness was enjoying the air of the room. She is the ideal impersonification of a wet beauty overflowing with freshness. A nice spirit taking a dip in warm bath water is okay? Isn't there any danger of melting? Regardless of how advanced my age is, I'm still a maiden, you know? Isn't it natural to always be clean? Additionally, it doesn't matter how much I soak in that temperature, there is no problem. If you want to melt me, you'll need to use something close to hellfire from hell that's impressive. Real was now in the middle of caring for her equipment. Since for me this is something that I don't get to see normally, I was quite entranced looking at her work. Isn't Real Chan also going to enter the bath right now? It's quite comfortable. Right after I'm done with this I'll go. To be honest, I want to take a bath and then do nothing for the rest of the day. I'm on board too. We have been up all night and without rest since yesterday. If in this state you enter a relaxing bath, after that there is no way you can win over your tiredness. Before that, there is one talk I would like to fill more details in. What's the meaning of that, Ba-chan? That one is already settled in stone naturally, since the one address liked it. The spirit is already totally designated as Ba-chan. NN, what is it? Why is it that a spirit who has first released in 300 years in the same room as we are? She completely entered the room as casually as possible, and then proceeded to talk naturally as it is. Actually, I'm quite surprised as it is probably real too. Surely the village head invited her to his house? Even in this small village, There it has to be a room bigger and more suited for guests than a cramped dual room like this. Objection. I'm totally not good with that much stiffness. I want to be in a place where I have more freedom, you know? Freedom is the word. Difference in standard. I wonder why I don't have any inconveniences when talking with people from this world? It might even be that what's spoken actually transforms into something that we understand. I wonder if the speech standard is like in European movies? I can't risk disrespect using coined words from contemporanean Japan. Era, it's easy to see what you are thinking. Kanna-kun is interested in who could use that legendary spear that others could not tame for 300 years, the hero of long ago? It's not weird to be a little curious about what happened then. Rather than using it, it was completely crushed. Better yet, stop it with the hero. Just from thinking about that word, a strong anger gushes up from the bottom of my heart. Spiridono, Kanna has an ill relation to the word hero. If possible from now on, please don't touch it. So it seems. I get it. Sorry for having reminded you of something unpleasant. No, instead, I'm also sorry Grandma here has no fault for the circumstances that she does not know. I shook my head as I apologized. Well, not only about the world, I also plan to teach Kanna-kun about using the power he now has. Real looked at me as if to ask what? I'm actually troubled as to how to respond. Grandma thought about something a little, and then slowly grabbed Real with her right hand. Spiridono, what is all cold? After a small shriek, Real shook her shoulders. I'll make sure to save that cute yell in the bottom of my chest. I'm sorry, but Kanna-kun as well. Next, she grabbed me with her right hand as well. Certainly, I do feel cold from her right hand, but that's only from the part she is touching. Even if she is someone who possesses extreme coldness, it's impossible for me to react like Real did. I can recognize that it's cold, and I can also experience the temperature. But that's it, it's not to the level one have to let out a voice. That was, for about a little before water freezes, temperature-wise. Bachan gave an answer to the eye whose head was tilted. Isn't that for about -10 degrees Celsius? If I get a surprise attack at that temperature, I should let out a similar yell to how Real did when she was touched. Yes, Real Chan's reaction would be the usual for a regular person. If it was normal, I should be getting a frostbite. That's a dangerous postscript. You are phrasing it as if something strange is going on with me. In a sense, the meaning is not wrong at all. Kanna-kun, do you remember how you defeated that ice golem in that cave? It's something that happened in less than half a day. There is no way I don't remember. Rather, I have tried not thinking about it until now. Real as well, probably to sympathize, she has not brought up the subject. Even now, if I try to become conscious about it, deep in the bottom of my heart, I feel that a new sensation was born. As expected, this is what Grandma mentions as power. This is that spirit magic you mentioned? Yep, a type of technique that is only allowed to be used by spirits. Even though Kanna-kun is human, you are now able to use a power that's quite similar to ours. This is also why you can better tolerate the cold now. The cause is that something that came flowing when I touched the spear? You have obtained one of the principles that sustain this world. Probably because I was sealed for so many years, that spear got stained with that. Originally, the owner of that spear was supposed to become the user. Well, whatever it said, I'm the one who marvelously broke that spear. As if it was a prank by God. Due to that process, in the end now within you resides the spirit magic of freezing. I will teach you the techniques necessary to use that power. It was a week after that we left the village. Is it all right? To give us such a large amount of food. Stepping through the spacious grasslands, Real and I are on our way. At my back there is a bag fully loaded of consumables that the people of the village gave us as a farewell gift. Not only the lodging, not only our meals. We ended up quite indebted to them. Later, if we get the opportunity, I'd like to repay them somehow. I wonder how I should feel. Deep down, this is a lifesaver. The road is quite long and there is going to be travel expenses. Anything that we can save in food is welcome. I can only assent to Real's pragmatic talk. I have nothing to add. At the time we left the castle we took with us a decent amount of money, annoyance fee and apology fee among other stuff. But it's not known if we are going to be able to secure more money from now on. Originally, there were several good reasons to depart quickly. But in the end we agreed at a full week's stay. For one side, the worry about pursuers was gone. Well, it's not totally gone in the end, but we went through the sacred mountain. Thanks to Grandma having spent there several years, it has become a well-known area where people must not tread. The reason being that you can't go through it by foot nor by air, that this is the #1 danger zone in the area. The people of the castle can't be ignorant about this. Therefore the fact that we crossed the mountain and that we stayed in the village can't be the first option they are going to consider. Even if they want to extend the search range, they would need to take a great detour while evading the mountain. With all that, we lost the reason for haste. On the other side, this is something proposed by Grandma. We needed a grace period for me to master my power. Our journey from now on won't be short, and probably just like what happened in the snowy mountain, we are likely to bump into more magical beasts. I can't forever rely on Real. I will undoubtedly need means of self-defense. On top of that, I had Real teach me more about the common sense in this world. I urgently need to evolve from a super clueless country bumpkin brat. It was necessary to learn useful stuff about the ways of the world. It's obvious that not doing so will become a problem later. I learned the basics about numbers, reading and writing. These will naturally become important from now on. The numbers, I could somehow stuff them in my head. Right now the immediate destination is Real's hometown. Real's hometown is the capital of the neighboring country. Since that's the place where the king resides, it's probably the city that's the more developed in the whole country. That also means that the population there has to be the largest in density in the country. And with that the amount of information that can be obtained is also the greatest. If that's the case, I might bump into means for me to return to my previous world. Or at least some clue to make that possible. I already consulted this with Real. She also promised to lend a hand with this. My expectations are not big. There are probably going to be a lot of stumbling before actually finding my destination. Fortunately, I'm blessed with a companion. So I won't get bored anytime soon. In those lines, I also told Ch8-10 the outline of the circumstances that brought me to this world. Since she is so long-lived, she might hold an unexpected bag of wisdom, so to speak. I'm sorry, but I don't know anything that might directly help Kanna-kun. I remember Grandma's sorrowful face. There are stories about humans being previously summoned from another world. There had been a bunch of them. But none of those were previously made in the human country. That's why, I know some fact from it, but not the accurate detail. By the way, the latest people summoned from another world, when was the last time? That question was answered by Real. Certainly I don't remember ever hearing something about 300 years ago. There it should be official records left. Yi. Yeah, I wonder why I had to be sealed. This is the first time Grandma doesn't have a light-hearted feeling. Suddenly she got restless. Probably, she already knows something. I do hold some doubts about this behavior, but asking her about it somehow seemed bad. So I'll drop the topic. After talking with Grandma, suddenly memories started flooding in. I kept thinking about the previous world. Something I didn't have the leeway about previously, due to the eventful days. It would be great if that Yuzuki doesn't do anything weird. The first thing it came to mind was about my childhood friend, an inseparable relationship forged by fate. Having been related ever since elementary school. An outstanding guy who is better than me in all accounts. But he also has several pitiful sides. He is without a doubt what would be labeled as a troublemaker. Right after that, I thought about those who I had not as long of a relationship with as Yuzuki, but it's those two female friends I had since middle school. It was a chance meeting caused by Yuzuki. But after that the four of us started hanging around, acting as a group. I wonder what are they doing right now? Without a doubt, for a while I did feel like raising some uproar. But because right now I can't do anything about it, I decided on not thinking more about it. Interlude 1, the desired appearance. We really can't rely on Yuzuki at all. That's true. If Kanna-kun was here, the situation would probably be a little bit better. Misaki-san, Ayana-san. Please forgive me. A few days before Kanna thought about his hometown. Why did you recklessly accept some outrageous requests? I do think that wanting to help people in need is a great human virtue. But, how about thinking of the time and the place? If you want to get involved so much, at least be mindful and don't drag others into it. One of the female members of this group is Iraji Misaki, a beautiful girl who is someone who oozes liveliness. Popular with both boys and girls in class. Possesses extraordinary reflexes and is the prideful ace of the karate club. She also has a record of victory in tournaments. So, Mama, Misaki-san. Shouldn't we leave it at this? We all know quite well that Yuzuki-kun is a pitiful Hidari Eichmann. He has no power to deny the request of such a pretty Ohime-sama. Another person, Asagi Ayana. In contrast to Misaki, she is quite composed. Her beauty does not fall a step behind Misaki's. She holds the top-ranked position grades-wise in her student year, and has a long history of always ranking first. This also includes nationwide score tests. An academic record that's enough to be called a prodigy. And stuck in between, Izumo Yuzuki. If graded by 10 people, those 10 would agree that he is a good-looking boy with a well-ordered face. Naturally, he boasts of tremendous popularity between the girls. And even among the boys he is considered someone to look up to due to his personality. Accomplished in both physical activities and studies. A high-spec individual, who always scores among the top 10 in the school ranks. It wouldn't be strange to say that he is someone possessing enough talent that he is loved by God. But, thinking about it, this is not the worst situation. It beats being thrown out without knowing anything at all. Truly, but I'm still worried about Kanna-kun. First we stay in this place and learn as much as we can. The first thing is to learn about the common sense of this world. Then, the moment we find an opening, we escape. Yuzuki-kun agrees with this? In front of the opinion of the two girls, the boy can't open his mouth. His mouth can't muster courage to oppose. The place where the three are discussing is a room in a certain castle. 3 days after Kanna escaped with a woman, 3 new people from another world were summoned. This is right after the ritual was done and some circumstances were explained. They are now resting in one of the guest rooms of the castle. So, I really think that Kanna was summoned here? If we compare the events that happened yesterday to what happened to us right now, it's quite possible. The light that surrounded us seemed to be the same type that the one that shined when he disappeared. These two girls actually are quite strong-willed. Normally, if one is tossed into this situation, it wouldn't be possible to talk with such composure even if the whole situation was explained clearly to them. The normal would be for them to get flustered and complain about everything but their own group. Then, Kanna also ended up summoned by that beauty-san. To promptly shut off Yuzuki-kun's mouth can only be said as expected from Misaki-san. If we would have asked something weird there, it would have created wariness against us. Isn't Idiom long aware of Yuzuki-kun's pitifulness after being associated for so long? By the way, these two, from the start they did not hide any impatience nor anxiety, and in no time they calmly assessed the situation. Of course, now some uneasiness is felt, but it's to the level where it won't cloud their objective judgment in the least. This is without a doubt thanks to the influence of one of their friends. Ayana-san? Why is it bad to ask about Kan-chan? Trembling with fear, Yuzuki managed to open his mouth. Even now he is rubbing his flank, which is under pain. When he was about to ask the princess about Kanna, his good friend and member of the karate club drove an elbow into him. Additionally, Kan-chan is what Yuzuki has called the boy ever since their younger days. Ayana sighed as she provided an answer. Are you asking that in the case of if that Haim-sama really summoned Kanna? Not explaining anything of that to us would be unnatural. At best, if we ask about it, she might answer us. In other words, she probably will never bring up the subject unless it's asked. But it doesn't mean that the princess was the one that summoned Kan-chan. If it's not the case, then the princess can't say anything about it. However, if the princess is actually concealing what happened with Kanna-kun, as if trying to get rid of her own anxiety, she made a lot of wrinkles in the middle of her own forehead. That would be because Kanna-kun's case is inconvenient to her. I don't want to think too much about it, but in the worst case, after saying that much, Ayana bit her own lips as if to prevent the words from surfacing. Having read through what Ayana did not say, Misaki slammed her palm into her shoulder, producing a large pawn sound. It's obvious that it's okay. I mean, I'm a little bit worried. But we are talking about that Kanna, you know? It is obvious that he is somehow safe right now. That's true. I apologize. Sorry for having said something that made everyone uneasy. It's fine, it's fine. It's because I always takes that role, that you are of great help to us. While those two were nurturing their friendship, Yuzuki to an extent tasted the feeling of being completely outside the loop. As he could not bear it, he wanted to say something. But why are the two of you so vigilant against the princess? I just can't see that princess as a bad person. The two girls that until then were smiling together now breathe a large sigh, to finally shrug their shoulders. Why do you react like that? I guess it's a miracle that you haven't gone through female relationship problems up to this point. But now we are getting caught up. Without a doubt, Kanna-kun had a firm grasp of the reins. But the moment that person is absent, Yuzuki-kun just foolishly spurs out on his own. From before, my own keeps being seriously cut down every time his mouth opens. The result, it's as if in his heart some thorns are pickled. Is that just his imagination? That Haim-san. Every time she talked to us, her mouth kept smiling, but her eyes did not smile. Not even once. Did you not realize that? I'm sorry, but I did not realize. Well, it's only my intuition. But I do believe in this intuition. And Misaki? That's true if I had to put it roughly, the princess' behavior had places where it was too perfect. What was perfect? The timing to convey the words, the gestures, the facial expressions. Everything as if it was designed to make others feel relaxed. It was an optimal behavior to completely turn around any question that anyone would throw at her. People that can do that naturally. Up to this point, I haven't seen any. In other words, it could only be a performance, Ayano-san? I can't deny the possibility that her personality is naturally like that. But it's better if we keep our guard up. I have already decided it, because that's my role. Even if the opponent is 99% trustworthy, to doubt that 1% is the role that Ayano assumed in the group of 4 that includes Kanna. But, if I add up Misaki-san's impression to that, I can't say I'm making a mistake, and that's why we are having this type of sultry reaction. In fact, these 3 people, ever since they entered this room, without any hesitation grabbed a futon from the mattress of the bed and covered themselves with it. After that they have only spoken in low voices. Even for someone who is in the same room, they won't hear what they are talking about unless they step in really close. Maybe you are suspecting wiretapping? But it doesn't matter how I look at it. The science and technology of this world is much inferior than ours. I haven't seen the outside of the castle, so I can't assert this concretely. That's way too naive, Yuzuki-kun. The technique that brought us to this world, that would be magic. It's a technology that's completely unknown to us. It wouldn't be strange at all if there are eavesdropping devices that use said method as expected of Aya. Naturally I haven't thought things like that. Me neither. From the start there wasn't any expectations of you. He might enjoy popularity within the class, but in his friend circle Yuzuki's hierarchy is the lowest. That's merely the result of his own track record. Then, Aya, what would be our future policy? It's just what I said before. First we obtain knowledge such as a common sense of this world. The most important thing would be learning writing and the monetary values. Without any of these 2, escaping from the castle would just lead to be lost in the roadside. Anno, we are really running away? When the princess that summoned this group told Yuzuki please save this world, he who already took up this request, he had a hard time thinking about running away. But, Ayano was clearly lacking in forgiveness. In the first place we don't have such obligations. And the princess kept using rhetorical flourishing. But placing the topics together, in the end she was just interested in battle potential. In other words, she already has planned to throw us into the battlefield. I'm sorry but, I'll gladly pass on the chance of earning a mass murderer's stigma at this age. I have the same opinion. Leaving the fate of the world to just 3 people, then it doesn't mean it's just some coincidence. That means that there is already something that they want to solve through force. If they want something solved, how about trying and do something on their own? In the case of Kanna, he was about to answer okay until he noticed the true personality of the summoner. In that sense, these 2 have a much more realistic opinion than he has. Probably because the opponent was a girl, more attention was put on the meaning of the words since the gender was no distraction. But, they might really be troubled? You are buying the tale way too much, Yuzuki. Could it be that you feel first sight for that Haim-san? Oh, of course that's not it. As Yuzuki was speaking, his face went red and he lowered his gaze. The temperature of his face increased a lot. On the other hand, the gaze the other two laid on him lowered a lot on degrees. The mood had shifted. The immediate policies will be what I mentioned, but why don't we ride on this a little bit? Misaki-san, is that a suggestion? Regardless of what that Haim-san is thinking, we just ended up in another world. So wouldn't it be fine if we do other things like that? For example, learning how to use magic. That princess stated. That Yuzuki's group who came from another world is in possession of an unheard amount of magical power. She is someone who is suspicious in too many accounts, but at least that part can be believed, the reason being that the purpose of the summoning was finding such a person. There is one certain high school student in which case this did not apply, however right now these three don't know about this. In any event, by the time we escape from the castle, the best would be to have means of self-defense. Yuzuki and I can move fairly well compared to people from our own generation, but having only that much is unsettling. Misaki is the ace of the karate club, so she has confidence in her own fitness. But there is no self-conceit in that factor. The reason is the friend who is not there. He is the one who taught her that mere arm strength and technique are not enough to truly seal the deal. When they are involved in a fighting scene, Misaki is a girl who can make even more calm judgments than Ayana. It's like Aya says, while we might be put out in a battlefield, at the current time we are as good as amateurs. These guys understand this already, that's why. They are surely going to train us so that we can fight. That's why we take advantage of the ride. It only has positive sides for us to absorb as many fighting techniques as we can. That's reasonable. Unlike you two, I'm a complete indoor type. I might benefit the most from learning magic. It's not like I'm saying that Aya has any faults, though. If any hindrance we have is lost, that would be great. In parallel to that, we learn as much knowledge as we can from this world. This settles it. Is this fine with Yuzuki-kun? To be honest, my opinion is not reflected at all. It's called majority of rule. In this way, the newly summoned youths will start their movement in this world. And thus, the time they reunite with the boy they hold in high regard is still far off. Chapter 9, Nobody said that I can't use defensive gear to punch. It's been 4 days since we left the village at the foot of the sacred mountains. We have finally reached another town. If I judge it from real story, this town is quite decent in size and liveliness. This is technically the first town I visit. That castle town I only glanced at a little from the sky thanks to the dragon, and the village at the holy mountain was very small scale. The landscape gives the impression of any Western country Middle Ages town that you would read in a manga. Unlike the mountain village, the material for the houses was not wood but mostly built with bricks. The attire of the people we passed by too was varied in colors and brightness. In other words, if I had to explain it compared to somewhere in the world, I mean, the world where I was summoned from, I had to say that it resembles the feeling of the old Italy. Humans are a thing that perhaps, even if you change the world, you won't change how they develop. As for the schedule, we plan to spend a few days in this town, replenish the food we have consumed up to this point, and if possible, acquire useful goods that couldn't be obtained in the mountain village. It's obvious that a town of this size performs trade with other cities. The influx of goods should be numerous. We should at least get one horse. Is that possible with the money we have? Horses' quality comes in all sizes. With what we have now we should be able to afford a cheap one. If it's not possible, we'll just have to hold it. But having one would change drastically the expenditure we need to endure during our travels. Indeed, While riding a horse, our own legs will get some rest. If you bump into beasts or thieves or something else, then you'll be in perfect condition to face them. In fact, 4 days ago during our travels, a group of monsters came attacking when we were about to sleep. An enemy ambush when you are high on mental and physical fatigue is actually quite the ordeal. While there it was no danger seen there. Fighting during the break period after walking the whole day is something unpleasant. By the way, can you handle horses, Kanna? I'm completely city brew. The last time I rode one was when I was taken to visit a ranch when I was a kid. At the moment we are searching for an inn as our base while we stay in this big town. While there is quite the diversity of inns, it's natural that the accommodation quality has plenty of different ranks. As I'm ignorant of the ways of the world, I leave judgment in that area completely to Real. Then, let's stay here tonight. What she chose was a 3-story inn which seems to be of quite elegant making. The accommodation fee was priced in a signboard outside. It's slightly higher than the ones we have passed by so far. Isn't it a little bit expensive? That might be so. But there is the thing that while it's not well known, we are currently wanted people. Cheap inns don't really do much about preventing info about their guests leaking out. On the other hand, those that demand firm payment are also more tight-lipped about customers' personal information. Buying safety with money. That's how it is. For those who have scratches in their shin, it's an habitual practice to put more money in a good inn. In the end, this is convenient for us. Rather than creating problems for being stingy, better make sure it's okay by choosing something pricey. As expected, that won't work if the state uses its power. But that's exactly why we don't want to make any noise. I have no recollection of getting any shin injury. Swallowing my small indignation, we opened the door of the inn after negotiating with the reception desk. We're rented 2 single rooms, naturally divided by gender. The period is 2 days and 3 nights and the price was relatively high after all. And as Real said, we should consider this an investment towards safety. Each room has a door lock and even a vault in addition. Each room has a bath. It's great to be able to soak in the bath without thinking about the opposite sex. Truth be told, while we were staying in the village, I happened to bump once into Real, who was just done with the tub, of course not her armor-clad figure, but one donning thin underwear. That soft hair which was damp with moisture. The fickleness of the skin that overflowed with feminine appeal. It was seriously bad. In fact, she has quite the amazing figure, way more than Grandma. Letters such as "or" kept showing up in my head for some reason, along with the doubt of how could such a plentiful mass possibly fit inside any armor piece. Furthermore, the person herself was completely indifferent in that area, so I was really troubled. Then elven ears, cool beauty and hidden huge breasts can only be called foul play. Just how many attributes is she in possession of? If we throw her to a certain place where otaku have their holy land, she'll create enough happiness that it'll look like a chapter of the pandemonium. And it was for that reason that, while we were at the village, I put a great deal of attention so that I wouldn't bump heads with Real in the bath. If you are shown a body like that in the raw, I don't think the young me who is a teenager in puberty will be able to keep it together. To that avail, I made sure to not fall in a situation where my libido would overflow. Better diminish the places where I could have a strange accidental discharge. It's that, you know? While at first glance it looks like a development worthy of an eroge, when it comes down to it, the anxiety is just too much. It's obviously an issue that can be problematic in a relationship between different genders, and after something happens it's quite awkward. But let's return to the main subject. We left our luggage in the inn, and decided to discuss concrete policies during lunch. While this inn provides meals during morning, midday and nights. Just like the Mountain Village Inn, the dining room is not open at all times. The time we arrived here was already a little bit past lunch, and more time passed while we were sorting our luggage. The place selected for the meal was a trendy shop with an open terrace. Their selling point was pasta with sauce. The flavor was similar to spaghetti acute la bolognese. Tentatively, I would like to take my equipment to the blacksmith. Not only the defensive gear, but the sword as well have been used quite a lot without getting professional maintenance. Besides that, I would like it if you choose something as well. As expected, leaving you with just some clothes won't be acceptable from now on. My current equipment consists of plain cloth, clothes made of hide, some breastplate and arm protectors. I have leg protectors as well. Speaking of protection, this is practically naked. If something that has even the slightest cutting power strikes, this might as well be paper-made armor. Back then I learned some means of defense from that spirit-sama grandma. But using that at the spur of the moment is an unreasonable request. It's essential that I increase my defensive power. You did a 1-week training period at the village. Additionally, you put that into use 4 days prior to arriving in this city. Your muscle strength doesn't seem bad. It looks like gear that puts emphasis on movement might suit you well. I think you didn't say anything about it. Do you have some previous experience with martial arts? The childhood friend I have since I was a brat is a troublemaker, and another one of my close friends is a black belt in karate, so this much is natural. Karate? It's a martial art specialized in bare hands. When you become proficient in it, how to put it? You can pile up several thin bricks, and then you break them with your hand. In Misaki's case, with her bare hands she can manage 5. But she proudly boasted that with a Kakato Otoshi she can score for about 20. I don't think that's something you should boast so much if you are a girl, though. Oh, that sounds interesting. I would like to have a match someday if possible. The warlike Real said this as her lips raised. In the end, it's happening in a world that's at peace. There is probably no match for Real who can make fully armored soldiers fly away. Additionally, the prerequisite can't be fulfilled in the first place. For starters, that person is in another dimension. Well, hanging around friends like that, it's natural to move your body. Even casual skinship can become quite painful. When focusing and evading, you do it as if your life depends on it. Yuzuki was the one that mostly got those injuries. But that's just getting your own just desserts. As a result, I have enough guts that I can still move when a battle ensues. One really never knows what can actually be useful in life. Indeed. At least now, you should thank the troublemaker and the karate-wielding friends long after this. I will come to realize that said troublemaker is the root of all evil. But that's not something I can tell at this point. Before going to buy the gear, we need to drop by the pawn shop to increase our funds. Reason being, we are going to trade some precious metals we borrowed from the castle. We won't trade stuff that has engraving or that the making is too luxurious, only focusing in selling simple jewels and ornaments that have no unusual characteristics. It's likely that the luxurious stuff comes from a well-known craftsman. And if they appear in the market, it might be possible to trace it back to the original seller, which would be us. Speaking of, I haven't explained how we got those treasures. In other words, how we got into the treasure warehouse of the castle. Normally speaking, a room like that will be locked by secure methods. Real said. That door that has no keyhole is probably sealed by a special magic tool. It has a mechanism that only allows a person whose magic power has been registered to open it. If anyone else tries to open it, some sort of security measure is sure to activate. Then, I just opened it normally. Even the technician that designed that magical door, as expected, did not take into account the existence of someone who has no magic. It doesn't matter who it is, even if small, you expect everyone to possess at least some magic in them. Thus your existence was not considered in the design. Perhaps, against you the most simple and common lock would be the most efficient crime prevention measure. It seems that high-tech always has its downside, regardless of the world. And that's the story of how we got to hoggle some good stuff. It ended up as quite the anecdote. The money that circulates in this world is separated in coins. There is no paper. Gold holds the highest value, then there is silver, copper and even iron. All of them have their own type. A single gold coin would probably equate to 100.000 yen. Silver would be 10.000, then copper at 1.000, and the lowest monetary value would be 100 yen. That would mean that 10 of the same coin can be changed for a higher ranked coin. And as a reference, a piece of bread being sold in the street goes for an iron. For this opportunity the trade earned us 30 gold coins. That would be 3,000 yen. That's the average annual income for a salaryman. In this world the annual income for any regular family would be between 10 and 15 gold coins. So this amount translates into quite the haul. Additionally, this time we did not trade everything, we only sold like a quarter of the booty, so we can still trade this amount 3 more times. Even if we don't want to exaggerate, we still hold at least twice as much money as this. It should be noted that we did not deal all of this at once. Taking such a huge amount of precious metals to a single shop is bound to raise some suspicions. While feeling uneasy over the weight of a bag that has 30 gold coins, we directed our steps to a blacksmith shop. Very well, Kanna, I already entrusted the sword so that it gets maintenance. We should worry about your side. What is it? Right now, I am speechless due to the price of a sword that's placed in a wall of this shop. It might be a longsword, it looks like a normal two-bladed weapon. It's 3 gold coins, 300.000 in Japanese yen. Even a short sword that's right next to it is going for a single gold coin. And there is even a shorter sword beneath that, going for 5 silver coins. Weapons are really this expensive? If it's for an early RPG weapon, you can already get something for like 1,000 yen, wasn't that right? Getting reality and games mixed up is obviously not good. But deep down I had some consciousness that it was similar. It is now that I realize this. The one who uses it is trusting his own life to it. The one who crafts it has poured considerable effort into making it. It has to be something that withstands actual combat. The price is fair in relation to the performance. Even more than that, you should take into account that some weapons made with weak materials might have been mixed into the lot. I can't even joke around about any talk of adventurers aiming for riches. There is retrieving valuables from ancient ruins. There is also selling materials from rare magical beasts. Any of those can fetch high prices. While there is a risk factor where you can die, the reward is appropriate to the risk. For that very same reason, the balance between supply and demand for these weapons is steady. So that's how it is. Because there is someone who is willing to buy, naturally there is someone who sells. Even if the weapons are at these prices, there are adventurers who have no problem meeting these bills. This is only for reference, but how much does your sword cost? Real? After I asked you to being interested, Real took a pensive pose with her hand in her chin. Let's see, the lowest price would be probably 100 gold coins. What's with that? That's too expensive. And you were just swinging around something that costly? Isn't this the same as having a bunch of gold bars in your back? And that's even the lowest estimate. You can basically build a residence for that. Even if it has this unrefined shape. This is heirloom that has been passed down through my family even before my grandfather's days. I might be praising one's own wares, but I don't think there are that many swords that possess this much sturdiness and sharpness. The thing is that, even if it's heirloom passed from grandfather to father and so on, the fact that a weapon is a weapon does not change. Its value is on being present in the battlefield. I have not done a proper appraisal about the actual value, so this is merely an educated guess. It's fine to entrust such a thing to others. I understand what you are going for. But if by chance a weapon shop loses equipment that has been entrusted with, the collapse in reputation of said shop will surely lead to falling out of business. Additionally, that probably will earn the grudge from the adventurer who was the owner of the weapon. That will be even more critical if it's the weapon of someone whose name is well known. Even if it's a fantasy world, the weight of a business transaction is quite real. I learned this during this weapon shop visit. A relationship of mutual trust is really important. What we brought this time was iron-made gear for my chest and hands. Added to that was a change in the leg protection. Real went along with my wishes, an order for defense power that does not hinder movement. What I picked was a wrist cover that includes the fist and totally covers fingers. It's something with a plain design. If you hold a sword, the design will probably get in the way. But that's exactly why there is no problem if you just use it to punch the opponent. Better yet, since the defense in my arms and legs make them more heavy, my offensive ability has actually been increased. Real's equipment was practically unchanged. There is only the issue of maintenance on the sword. Though the price of said maintenance is enough to match the cost of a new weapon. The total price for getting together my armor was 8 gold pieces. That would be 800.000 in yen. Perhaps it's a fair price on necessary expenses. But it seems like an awful sum to me who is among the common people. It's better if I don't carry back this money since when I get back to my own world, my small worries continue to increase. Chapter 10. I just couldn't hold it. We decided to buy all groceries tomorrow and to spend the rest of the day in the inn. We are still carrying tiredness from our long trip. As there is nothing mandatory left to do for the rest of the day, I decided to chill out in my room after sunset. Or that's what the official story is. Right after finishing the meal, we put a stop to our conversation after the sun was set. Well, I guess I'm going. I hardened the determination in my chest, and decided to go out to the town alone at night. Mind and body, they are both fully loaded. Like this I can deal with any type of situation. Now, the issue is why I didn't tell anything to Real and went out on my own. It's a story of when we got together during midday when I was picking up my armor. We were casually speaking about what to do tomorrow while strolling downtown. It was then when I found it, the place that's the so-called red light district. It might not be 100% clear from the preface, but the conclusion is about my sexual desire. It's because, I know I'm persistent about this, but I'm a healthy high school student and a young adolescent boy going through puberty. And from time to time, Real-san lets out some tremendous sex appeal. That's quite the incentive to the heart of any youth of age, even if it's unconscious. Joking aside, those huge breasts are a weapon. and any casual sighting of that deep valley is seriously dangerous. On top of that, sometimes I remember the cleavage of that spirit Sama who was left in the mountain village. That one is also seriously dangerous. It might be something embarrassing, but can I find the chance for some self-discharge in my current situation? Supposing it's discovered, at times I'll just die in agony. Even if I don't die in agony, the aftertaste is going to be weird. As I kept worrying endlessly about that, an impulse was born unquenched in my heart. And at that time I happened to see a perfectly dressed Oni-san on the street who was calling people. It was then that I felt ready to gush out. The habits of the sex industry of this world. While I was thoroughly taught by those brave gentlemen who had cleared long service back there in the mountain village. I can say that anything goes for the sake of keeping my dignity as a man. I painstakingly increased the war funds, and I already scouted a long detour to that street I'm aiming for. At the time, I had plenty of failures, but thanks to some successful talks, I did manage to grasp some tips to select a good store. This is all thanks to the joint efforts of the good men that have interest in the arrow onwards. And so, I set sails. Just in case, I go and listen from behind Ril's door to make sure she is asleep. The door is quite thin and I manage to hear a sleeping breath which sounds as if her heart is satisfied thanks to the quiet rest. It's great that she seems quite deep in her dreams. I get away from the room with sneakily steps, and leave the inn on my own. The streets are as lively as if it was the daylight. Even when the sun has set, the sky still shines thanks to the starlights as the calm of the night skies spread all over. It's not only that I consider the stars so colorful, but on the roads you can find street lights at fixed intervals. It looks like it's magic tools that capture light during the day and release it during the night. Thanks to those I don't think I'll be losing my way. Well, in my case, it's not only thanks to the street lights. The signs of people, noises. They are easier to perceive since there is less lightning. Once again I become aware that an abnormality occurred in my body. It might be perhaps from the time I had the audience with the wicked princess. It only truly became clear when the golem showed up in the holy mountains. My 5 senses, I feel as if their ability to perceive was increased. It's mysterious, even if it's not in my field of vision. I feel that I can somehow still see it. Even at this point, I feel like I could perfectly walk around town with my eyes closed and never bump into anyone. I focus my eyes in a house that's on the street, I narrow my eyebrows and try to stretch my consciousness there. Even though there is a wall in between, I can still feel the presences inside the house. It's likely that these come from the people living inside. Well, more than this is a violation of privacy rights. So I divert my attention from the house. From the start my intuition has always been sharp, but when it's taken to this level is like the instincts of a wild animal. Grandma said that it's likely because I don't have any magic power in me according to what the ice spirit Sama said, bar rare exceptions. Everything in this world has magic power. This goes beyond humans. Even inanimate objects have magic power to some level. However, there it seems to be no magic dwelling in me. I'm an absolute zero. To propose a theory, I who have zero magic inside me, is much more sensible to the presence of magic that comes from other places. To the point I can get a clear feeling then why, ever since coming to this fantasy world I can feel much better those presences. From now on let's call that magic detection. From now on this is only my guess, but maybe in the original world where I come from, magic still exists, but in a much more minuscule quantity. Let's assume that a regular person in the fantasy world has 20 of magic. In the real world each person might have only one or two. In other words, it was not enough in size for me to be able to detect it as magic. That's why, ever since I came here, I managed to grasp the clear and defined presence of that thing known as magic. The existence that once was too dim to be felt, now is big enough so that it can be accurately pinpointed. As I was lost in my own thoughts, the entrance to the red light district will be soon in sight. What is it? This I'm finally here feeling, because I was thinking about something so seriously while approaching this site. I somehow feel that my current behavior is quite pitiful. While you can say a part of me is afraid of delving into the world of the adults and wants to return, the correct answer to that fear is clearly engraved in my heart. It's a no. Perhaps now, a big smile is stretching under my face. I might even be exhaling air roughly like a pervert. But please at least let me say it. I'm a boy, you know? A boy who is quite interested in the body of girls, you know? A boy that likes girls a little bit older, cool, and with huge breasts, you know. I involuntarily raised my two arms to the sky. I now return to myself. I'm going to release some impulses here, the type of release that goes inside girls' mew. It looks like whatever I think about, it ends up leading into some pervy talk. I better hurry or I might even release it here on my own. Fans of mine, please give me your support. As of now, I'll be stepping into the adult world. Now I notice that I forgot to bring my wallet.